Hi, this is Misha and Hobo the Cat. Hi, Hobo. Anyone who checks my personal channel knows that I got one of these recently. I put up kind of a preliminary video, actually working on it very late last night, into the night. This is the finally here and technically just new to the market, although it's been kind of advertised on and off for about 6 years. Polish PM-63c semi-automatic pistol in 9x18 PM 9mm Makarov. And we'll get into this later in the video, but it's a little hard to say even who made this. The original parts are Circle 11, the Sling factory, Radom, from the 60s, 70s. This particular one's 1970 dated. Pioneer Arms is the importer, and we would assume that Pioneer Arms assembled these in Poland, but then it also has Interarms. So I'm not really sure where Interarms comes into the mix. But the import mark seems to be from Pioneer USA, so where does the Interarms thing come in? I could understand if Interarms were the importer, but anyway, I digress. In this video, I'm going to get more in depth on the thoughts. We took this to the range today. Sure, since we were shooting it, there guys. And we fired about 300 rounds through it. We're going to share what we've discovered and talk about the history a little bit, because it's me. So why don't we start off here and show you a little bit of shooting footage with this little guy, just to keep things exciting, and then we'll move on from there. PM-63, very first test. Held open.
Clear. Alright. Not bad.
PM-63, second test.
You good? Clear. That first casing got me right behind the glasses. Right behind the glasses. Right into my eye.
Well, PM-63.
I
feel like I need to be in a tank.
I feel like I should have been wearing a hat.
Alright, so you saw a few rounds downrange. Wanted to talk about the historical situation in Poland after the communist takeover. This gun here is another Pioneer gun, assembled in Radom, Poland, using an original 1950s PPS-43 part set. All this is original. This down here is original frame, and then they modified it to be semi-auto only by putting a semi-auto trigger and getting it to fire from the closed bolt. And this is the PPS-43c. And these have been in the country for about 9 years now, and have been pretty darn neat. Most of them have the chrome line barrel. They fire 7.62 Tokarev. They have the original stock, just pinned closed. Early ones had little spot welds. Later ones like this had the kind of internal weld, and the button hole was shrunk down. But yeah, all the front is original. The bolt and the lower are original. The grips are original. These fire using original mags. And so we knew going into this that Pioneer could build a pretty good semi-auto. Thing is, when these came out, they were about 400 or less. Today, they're still available, but they're about 600 or less. Still not bad for a pretty darn authentic semi-auto PPS-43. This was the standard submachine gun in Poland in the 50s and getting into the 60s. Again, it fires the 7.62 Tokarev round. There was also a fixed stock version that was unique to Poland called the PPS-4352. And you know by now I'm going to say we have a video on that, so if you're not familiar with the 52, check out some of our older videos. For the standard handgun in Poland at the time, we had the Polish version of the TT-33 Tokarev. I've seen this referred to as the WZ-33 or the WZ-48. It's just a copy of the wartime Soviet Tokarev with the large serrations and standard grips. This too fires 7.62 Tokarev. Both of these would remain standard for your just rank and file infantry or someone needing a subgun or a handgun. However, the Tokarev round in Russia was getting replaced in the 50s by the new, at the time, 9mm Makarov 9x18 PM, and by the late 50s the Russians were really pushing member nations in the Warsaw Pact, named for Warsaw, Poland, where it was officially signed, but it was still dominated by Russia, make no mistake, to go with the 9x18. Some countries just copied the Makarov, but there weren't a lot of submachine guns for that because the Tokarev round was still better as a subgun round. So we've got this gun here. We're going to get to it in just a second, but that's where the P-64, the Polish gun in 9x18 Makarov, comes in, obviously adopted in 1964. This was their first standard semi-auto handgun, but it was a domestic design, designed at the Uxnik Radom Circle 11 factory. But if you notice, it's pretty small. This is PPK size. This was meant for high-ranking officers and police because it's light, easy to carry, easy to conceal, and it wasn't expected to be needed very often. It was very much a defensive gun, like a last resort. And if anyone's ever fired one of these, you know they're not the best thing to fire, not something you're going to shoot all day. Single action trigger is actually decent, but the double action, see, my hand slipped because it's oily, is really heavy on these, and I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. But for standard, like non-commissioned officers or people needing a full-size gun, they kept the Tokarev pistol along with its cartridge in service well into the 60s and 70s. And the same thing kind of happened with the PPS-43 and PPS-4352 submachine guns. They were just the rank and file subguns. So where the heck does this fit in? Alrighty. In the 1950s in Poland, at the Technical Institute, the Technical Academy, the original idea for this was first proposed. It was to give vehicle drivers, tank crew members, people in aircraft, people, scouts, recons, a lightweight submachine gun. What we would think of today as a PDW, but back then that concept really didn't exist. At the same time, the 9x18 cartridge was just coming into use. It was just revealed a few years earlier, and they thought this 9x18 round, which could just be a direct blowback, would be perfect for something like a small submachine gun or a large pistol. Well, this concept was taken on by famous Polish arms designer who actually made this P-35, Piotr Wilmin something. There you go. That. You should hear my speech try to say it. But he steam led it in the late 50s. But he actually passed from cancer in 1960, which makes this gun's name a little ironic. This is called the PM-63 RAK, R-A-K. Now, some people say this is short for Commando Automatic Pistol. This is incorrect, totally, completely utterly incorrect. RAK in Polish was pretty much the project code name. That's how they have always done things. That's where like the name Tantal or Beryl comes from. So RAK was the code name. In Polish, this means Cancer, crayfish, or crawfish. Now, Cancer is in like the zodiac sign, but also Cancer is in the disease, and that's actually what Piotr died from in 1960 was cancer. So yeah, there's that. After he passed, his team continued on. They had a prototype in 1962, and this prototype would have a top folding stock, a wood forearm / foregrip, and would fire the 9x18 round. Now, development was basically transferred to the Circle 11, the Uxnik factory, and then in 63 and then into 64 they did a small test batch of pre-production guns of about 20. These would be known as the PM-63. This is where it all comes from. And these guns would have the original slidey pattern of stock. And these would be the first to introduce this folding foregrip, which, well, doesn't fold on this because it is a semi-auto, whatever. So the modern furniture with the synthetic grips and sliding stock would appear on these pre-production guns. Okay, so that happened there. So we move on. The military takes a look. The Polish police also take a look. They like what they see. They officially adopt it in 1965, and it goes into serial production in 1967. So what do we have with the original PM-63? Well, we have about a 6-inch barrel, chrome lined. Early ones would be full chrome outside and in. Later they would just do blued outside and then still have a chrome bore. About a 1 in 10 twist rate. The gun tip to tip is about 13 inches with the stock in and about 23 inches with the stock deployed. And we weigh about 3.5 pounds. So not bad. It was select fire, but it had a two-stage, a progressive trigger. So you pulled a little bit for single shot, or you pulled all the way for full auto fire. So much like an AUG. We had a front blade sight, and we had a 2-position rear flip, 75 and 150 meters. We have the mag catch down here at the base, in the back of the grip. Now originally, this little 15-round mag didn't exist. It originally was just made with these 25-round mags. And it was kind of interesting for that day and time to work with a pistol-style slide. They had to kind of go back to the old Schmeiser style of double-stack single-feed mags. That's pretty long. I mean, 25 rounds is good for a little PDW, but they did go with this short mag. They started to introduce it very soon so it could have something for when it was in the holster, so the, you know, officer would have something in his thing. Now, these were not intended for high-ranking type officers. Now, these were intended for tank crews, as I said, and they actually became standard in the Polish tank corps, as well as artillery, recon units, scouts, and paratroopers, so on and so forth. So it's bigger than a pistol, even the Tokarev, but it's obviously still smaller than the PPS-43 submachine gun, and a lot smaller than a Kalashnikov, and lighter. So it was that in between, it was a PDW type gun. Between 67 and 77, they would build between 70 and 80,000 of these. They would do a few changes in 69 and then another revision in 75. They would mostly just be small things. For example, they would work on the rate reducer to make it more effective, and also they put a stop so it couldn't accidentally be broken or damaged during disassembly. As I mentioned, they went from full chrome to partial chromed barrels. They worked on the mag catch a bit. Early ones stuck out more so they could be accidentally hit. They made this more recessed and they kind of bobbed it to make sure the mag couldn't be dumped. They also tried to strengthen the shoulder stock to make sure it could be a little more stable. They never really fully succeeded with that. These were always pretty flimsy. And it's kind of the same with the foregrip. These kind of got loose pretty darn quick. So little changes like that. They also, as many things happened in the communist era in the 70s, they went to some more stamped parts from machined to stamped, and they cut out a few machining steps in parts like the slide to make production faster and easier. These would be used by the Polish military and police. They would also be exported to a lot of police, for example, East Germany and Cuba. They would be exported to Vietnam, and from there they would actually be kind of captured in 1979 by China, who would reverse engineer the PM-63 RAK into their own Type 82 PDW type gun. So that was unlicensed, but it existed. And these are spread a few other places during the communist era. And a few are still in use today, but most of course have been retired since. These didn't have a stellar reputation in the military. Like a lot of guns that were like this, it was a little big for a pistol, a little small for a subgun. It seems like they were decently reliable, but they had some ergonomic issues, and they had, like I said, the stock was pretty meh. So it is what it was. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier, I apologize. These did fire from an open bolt with a fixed firing pin, which is interesting. The rate reducer, without it, these would fire about 850 rounds a minute. With it, it would tame that down to about 650, which is a heck of a lot more usable. So there's a little blurbit on the history. Let's show you a little more shooting footage of the PM-63c here, and then we will talk about this semi-auto in particular. PM-63. Actually had our first jam.
Nope.
It felt pretty light on that one.
Yep. It didn't quite strip out of the mag.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, all right. You're good.
Towards the end of the mag, so
yep.
Could have been a light spring.
Yep, could have been a mag problem.
Yeah, that was very maggy feeling.
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, cool.
Okay, one light failure that could have been mag out of, what have we done now? I think that was...
I did 15 and 25.
And I did 15, 15, 10, 10. So, yeah, I did 50. And you did 25, yeah,
40.
75.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool.
PM-63. That first time there, we had a failure to go into battery on the first or second round, but that was my first full mag. Of course, once we stopped recording, the rest of the mag went Jim Dandy. So let's see how this one goes. It does not seem to like these full mags. Let's see.
Good.
Exactly what it did the first time, folks. The first or second round on a full mag, but then the rest goes fine. So, could be mag springs, could be pressure. We'll keep an eye on it. PM-63 Silver Bear test. Hold open. PM-63 full mag Silver Bear. Well, I hit myself in the forehead with the casing, but otherwise good.
It didn't hit me that time. So
well, there we go.
That was with Silver Bear ammunition. Haven't had any issues with that so far.
PM-63 with Wolf again. Held open.
Okay. Okay. PM-63 with Silver Bear ammunition.
PM-63 with the wolf again. Not open. Alrighty. So how did she shoot? Honestly, better than both Jay and I expected. We put about 300 rounds. We had a few cases, especially once it kind of got in and when the oil that was on it dried up and as debris came out from the cartridges, it went failure to go quite into battery. But we only noticed this with this wolf ammo we had, and it was kind of odd because it was kind of copper washed. With the silver bear, which seemed to be a little hotter, it didn't really have any issues. And then after we lubed it, even the wolf started to run. So I'm going to mostly chalk that up to kind of a mixture of being dry and the wolf ammo being maybe a little light loaded. Also, we have to take into account that these are all old surplus mags. So we'll keep monitoring it, but all in all, with these little converted subguns, they're never 100% reliable because they're really kind of changing up a lot of things. So, and none of the failures today were major. Most of them were just either push it forward to put it in battery or just charge the slide and keep on going. There was never any kind of serious stoppage. That's actually something you're supposed to do with these, by the way, guys. So let's see what they really did here. Let's take this critter apart. See, now it doesn't hold open on an empty mag. But as you saw in the video, you can manually hold it back. But we don't want to go all the way back. We've got this, guys, here. See that? I'm going to have to turn it around this way to get it in the right place. But we want to get it in the takedown spot. And you just kind of got to, of course, you guys can see the line up here. I just kind of have to fiddle with it till I catch it. But there we go. See that? It's kind of in the middle. It's not all the way back. This is standard for disassembling the subgun, as well as this one. Then what we do is we go the Browning way. We rotate this, get our barrel unlocked from the frame, and we let this go forward. Then we rotate our barrel again, letting it go all the way out. Now, this is kind of just staying here. What it is, it's a little bit stuck on the hammer, so you just kind of have to power through, and then that comes off. And that is pretty much it. Now, this is going to be filthy inside, guys. Anyone who shoots Makarov ammo a lot knows exactly why. Ugh. And plus, we put lube in here, so that attracted everything. You know, lube. You know, the oil that this shipped to me with Classic on, it reminds me of tobacco, like chewing tobacco. It's gross. So here is our hammer back here. Here's our trigger up here, so it's got a linkage. There's not a slot here, if you notice. In the military gun and the full auto, there would be a cutout here for the rate reducer. I have a feeling that's one thing that the ATF wanted them to not have in the semi-auto frame. And that's pretty much our stuff there. One thing I think is neat, they use the original recoil spring and guide. Of course, the rate reducer is gone. That's almost always considered part of a machine gun in these types of guns. Same thing goes with the BZ-61 Scorpion. Get my barrel out here. This kind of just tips out. Gotta fiddle with it to get it out. Here's our slide. They cut away this area back here, and they put in a spring-loaded firing pin for that hammer to hit. Now on the military gun, part of this area back here would be where a counterweight was installed, so when it fired from an open bolt, there would be some mass behind it. They took that out and they put in the semi-auto thing. Now here's our barrel. I had Jay look at it, and we are pretty much both of the opinion this is the original 1970, or at least original era barrel. Yes, they did put PAC and a number on, but that seems to mostly be an inspection thing. There's some other numbers here, like 27 and such, which appear to be original. And there's an area here where a circle 11 marking would have been, but it is pretty cleanly machined off and then blued over. And I've looked at 3 of these now, and they all have this kind of flat area, and I looked at my original barrel from my kit, and there's a marking there. So it seems like they looked at original barrels, and maybe they threw out some that were shot up or whatever. Other ones that were still in good shape, they reworked and reused in these. I say this because these are chrome lined. That's just not something that Pioneer Arms really is known for, is chroming. They just don't. And I don't see them going to that much effort. Plus, looking at the machining of the cuts and everything and the chamber, it looks like an original. Could be wrong, but this is our professional opinion. I think it's easier to put this in the frame because there's more of an area. Group. See how much this wants to fight me going back in on camera. So now we're going to hit our hammer here. Just kind of got to overcome it. Make sure our spring and everything is lined up pretty good. Pull this back a bit. And this is the part, and it's not just this gun, all these Browning type guns where you have to kind of get your barrel in a certain area and then rotate it, I have trouble with. It's just a matter of getting it in the right areas. Come on, gun. Do your thing. There we go. If you get that right now. They put that in. Put it in the takedown slot. Should be able to rotate it. And yep, still, yeah, like I said, it's getting that lined up that's a challenge for me, because it's a very visual process. Browning was like that. He was a very visual guy. If you look at a lot of his disassemblies, they require looking at stuff. No, stop there. PM-63, full California legal mag. And we're done. Literally 2 seconds after he stopped recording, I got it lined up. But yeah, it's like any of the old Browning pistols. You just get it in there. And yeah, that's pretty much disassembly. And it comes apart just like the military gun. You just have to kind of take into account that hammer that sticks up a little bit, and you have to kind of push over it or press it down because it's spring loaded. This is already smoothing out quite a bit from when it was new. I would recommend kind of lubing that area, the rails and the hammer and all that, until it breaks in especially. So that's how it comes apart, and that's how they semi-autoed it. Part of this frame is original. Definitely parts in the back here. There's still some original Radom proofs. The front though is definitely new, and you can tell. Of course, this slide rides inside the frame, which is neat. And this spoon, it acts as kind of a way to cock it. It also acts as a muzzle brake, and it acts as kind of a guard to make sure your hand doesn't accidentally walk up and you shoot a finger off. Well guys, that is pretty much our experience. We were pretty pleasantly surprised. There are a few small gripes. Why they phosphated, Parkerized this when they did a pretty decent job of bluing the 43s, which were cheaper, is beyond me. I wish they'd, even if this bluing isn't quite as attractive as the original Circle 11, I would have still gone for kind of that matte bluing over this phosphating. But I do, on the other hand, like that it has the chrome lined barrel, original furniture, which seems in very nice shape. Original markings are still apparent on the slide. Mags go in and out very easily. They lock open reliably. It's very easy to flip that control to keep it open if you don't want it open. The slide is very easy to retract. For a semi-auto little conversion, the trigger is fine. There's kind of an initial take-up stage, but then a pretty clean brake, and it's not a very heavy pull. Honestly, it's one of the better triggers I've felt in a semi-auto type one of these. If you wanted to SBR this, best thing is just replace this foregrip with one from a kit. There's a big screw here and then a shorter screw here. Just remove those, and after you get your stamp, you can put on a standard foregrip. The buttstock is here. It has a small tack weld. You can pop that and then have a working stock. The latch actually still has the spring in it. But I'm going to tell you right now, these stocks are pretty darn flimsy, especially if you get one of the original pattern ones before they tried to revise them. They're not all that useful. So yeah, our reliability was above average, especially with the Silver Bear. Wolf, I think, will be fine after especially a little more break-in. And the short mag here is what this came with, but the long mag is actually surplus. I just grabbed a pouch set I had. The standard pouch holds a total of 3 mags, and then it holds your cleaning kit over here. And this does come with the cleaning kit, the little oiler, cleaning rod, yada yada. That was the standard issue loadout. You had 3 25 round mags and 1 15. The only real kind of gripe I have is this is the original single point sling, and there would have been a small little eyelet here for attaching it. They don't have it on this one, and I have a feeling it's because the hammer is back here. I think where the hammer pin that holds the hammer in gets in the way. But I think there's a way. You can TIG weld something, or even just kind of epoxy something there to mount your single point sling to. I'll figure something out, I'm sure. These do come with the original holster, usually in quite nice shape. And then just in a typical box with manual. Before we shot today, I was kind of neutral on these. I kind of figured if they shot well, I'd like them, and if they didn't, I wouldn't. And since these were a lot of fun to shoot, or this one was a lot of fun to shoot, I should say, we're both pretty impressed. It was more fun, we thought, than the VZ61 Scorpion in 9x18, which is about the only other communist PDW in the same weight class, as it were. That's a fun gun, but this one, because you're grabbing right in the center of the weight, it's just a real smooth, real fun shooter. Jay commented that it kind of feels like shooting a Tokarev pistol, and I can see that. It has kind of that long travel springiness to it, but not exactly a lot of sharp recoil or anything. So with that in mind, really the only detraction is the price point. I do talk about that a lot more in my personal video, and this one's running long enough, so I don't want to go into it now. These are $12.99, which is a considerable amount of money for a converted gun, but you know, what are you going to do? It's a pretty specialized niche item. But if they work, and if we're using a lot of original parts like the barrel, slide, and part of the receiver and the furniture, at least you're getting something. This isn't a true facsimile or clone. This is an original gun rebuilt on a modern receiver, modern frame. And it shoots a cartridge that's a heck of a lot of fun. I've always been a big fan of the Makarov cartridge, at least. Well, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure this will come out again very soon with us. Maybe we'll shoot it up against that VZ61 Scorpion. That seems like an interesting contest. Any questions, comments, please, we welcome them below. If you could, like, share, subscribe, and also, if you could, check out the link. Maybe think about supporting us on our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we will catch you very soon next time. PM-63, last mag of the day. Oh, my finger's getting tired. And that was with Wolf.
Sweet.
Hi, P.S. This is Misha again. I was reviewing the videos, getting them ready to edit, and I realized I promised you something and never delivered in the earlier part. Why the deuce the Polish P-64 has such a heavy double action trigger, and why that's the PM-63's fault. Well, the reason is simple. This was an open bolt submachine gun, and they did not want accidental detonations. They were worried about that. So they put very hard primers in their 9x18 ammunition. And they wanted to be able to use the same ammo in this gun and in this gun here. But the problem is we have those hard primers. So solution, heavy double action, because we have a heavy spring. So it's all the PM-63's fault because of military ammo with hard primers. Well, that was really that, but I figured while I'm doing this, might as well show you some bits from a parts kit here. Why not? This is an original shoulder stock from the kit deployed. See, this flips over, and that's how it's under the gun. Then you retract it, or pull it out, extend it out, flip this out. This retracts, it comes straight out, and it also dips down just a wee bit. So that's how the stock works. This is not super strong, but for a PDW it'll do. Here is our original foregrip. This button folds it like it is on the pistol, and then on the original gun you would just press that and it would fold down. The problem with these in military service, they're light enough and they fold pretty flush and they're actually relatively comfortable, but because a lot of this hinge is polymer, they would get loose and rattly and break off not infrequently. And here's a sad sight. This is how the frames come in. I mean, a lot of these guns, a lot of these kits were just untouched, unused. Now, the slide you see is a complete original, but the frame is cut into 5 pieces. We've got this front bit here. We've got our center piece. They even cut the bottom of the trigger guard. Excuse me, the bottom of the grip frame for some reason. I mean, that's not a hard one to re-weld because it's not critical. But then the rear, where a lot of your force goes, is actually cut in the very back. And then again, just a few millimeters forward. So we have 3 cuts in the back that we have to worry about, plus the one on the front and the one on the bottom. By the way, this is that sling swivel, this little stud, and you can see this hole is where the stock would go. So I think either the pin for the hammer in the back is in here, or maybe that's just where the weld was at. I have a feeling something in the conversion made it more difficult to get the sling there. I was also wondering if they were having problems with the sling flipping up, since this is not a closed bolt, and maybe hitting the back of this and jamming up the slide. I'm sure there is a reason, because in most other places of this gun they took great cares to preserve the original parts. So there's a reason that's not there. But yes, you could figure out something. There's always a way to figure out something. And finally, I just thought I would show the cleaning kit that goes in this pouch. We've got the standard polish oiler. We've got cleaning brush with folding handle. This has a screwdriver on one end, and then another tool, a forked tool, maybe a side tool on the other. Then of course we have a regular jag and our regular brush. And each of these has a little compartment inside here that they fit in very neatly. It's pretty, of course it's Poland, so what they did is very well done. Anywho, I figured might as well give you the best video I could. So I would catch a few things that didn't make it. Alright, for real this time. We're out for the day. Again, we appreciate you tuning in. If you could, like, share, subscribe, and check out our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon next time.